Hey there, and welcome to the Property Wealth Podcast. We're so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Managing properties can sometimes feel like herding cats, right?
Absolutely. And that's where CRMs come in. We're diving into a comparison of Buildium and AppFolio today.
Two popular choices for landlords, and both have their strengths. But figuring out which one suits your needs can really make a difference in how you manage your properties.
Exactly. We'll cover what each platform offers, the pros and cons, and how they can fit into your overall real estate strategy.
Plus, we'll touch on how using the right tools can save you time and headaches.
And help you focus more on building your wealth, which is what it's all about, right?
Definitely. We're also going to share some practical tips for getting started with these systems, so you can hit the ground running.
Sounds great. So let's jump right in and start exploring the features of Buildium. Mike, what do you think is the biggest advantage of using Buildium for landlords?
So Sarah, when we talk about CRM systems like Buildium and AppFolio, it's not just about managing properties. It's really about protecting your future, especially for those of us over 40.
Absolutely, Mike. At this stage in life, many people are thinking about retirement, right? They want to ensure that their investments are secure and can provide for them in the long run.
Exactly. And with inflation being what it is, having a solid property management system can help maximize rental income, which is crucial for your retirement plans. You want to stay ahead of those rising costs.
Right, and let's not forget about market shifts. The real estate landscape can change pretty quickly, Having a good CRM can help landlords adapt to those changes more easily.
That's a great point. I was speaking with an investor recently who had multiple properties. He used Buildium to track his rental income and expenses. And when the market started to shift, he noticed some trends in tenant preferences. He was able to pivot quickly to offer amenities that were in demand, which kept his occupancy rates high.
Wow, that's a smart use of technology. It's like having your finger on the pulse of the market. And you mentioned inflation earlier. That's such a big concern for so many people, especially as they approach retirement.
Definitely. With inflation, the cost of living is going up, and if your rental income isn't keeping pace, you could be in a tight spot. Think about it. If your rent isn't increasing in line with inflation, you're effectively losing money.
That's a scary thought, and for those who might be relying on that income for their retirement, it's even more critical. An effective CRM can provide insights into rental trends, helping landlords make informed decisions about rent increases.
Right. And it's not just about the money either. There's an emotional aspect to it. Feeling secure in your financial future can really impact your overall well-being. A lot of people want to leave something for their families, a legacy,
Absolutely. I've heard stories of investors who've used their real estate to create a solid foundation for their kids and grandkids. It's not just about the properties. It's about building wealth that can be passed down.
Exactly. And with a CRM, you can keep everything organized, track leases, maintenance requests, and even communicate with tenants more effectively. This reduces stress. I remember a client of mine who was overwhelmed by managing multiple properties manually. She switched to AppFolio, and it made a world of difference for her.
That's so relatable. I think a lot of landlords feel that stress. They want to be hands-on but don't realize how much time and energy it takes. A good CRM can handle the nitty-gritty details so they can focus on the big picture.
Yes! And also, it's about future-proofing your investments. The market can be unpredictable, but having the right tools allows you to navigate those uncertainties better. For instance, if you're aware of market trends through your CRM, you can make strategic decisions about selling or buying additional properties.
That's so true. And when you think about wealth transfer, it's not just about leaving behind a property, it's also about making sure your family understands how to manage it. A CRM can help keep everything clear and organized, making the transition smoother for them.
Right. And for many people over 40, they're not just thinking about their own retirement, they're also thinking about their parents, their kids, and their future grandkids. It's a multi-generational approach to wealth.
Exactly, and with the current economic trends, it's becoming more important than ever to have that safety net. Property can serve as a hedge against inflation, and a CRM can help ensure that your investment stays resilient.
And let's be honest, the emotional side of this cannot be overlooked. The comfort that comes from knowing you have a solid investment, that you can provide for your family, and that you're on track for a secure retirement. It's invaluable.
Yeah, it really is. It's about peace of mind. I think many listeners can relate to that feeling of wanting to have control over their financial situation, especially as they think about the future.
For sure. And speaking of control, that leads us into some core strategies that can help you maximize your investment through these CRM tools.
Let's dive into those strategies and explore how to make the most out of Buildium and AppFolio for long-term wealth building.
So let's dive into some core strategies and rules of thumb that can really help landlords, especially when they're considering platforms like Buildium or AppFolio.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having a good grasp on these concepts can make a huge difference in how effectively someone manages their properties. Where should we start?
Well, a great starting point is the 1% rule. It's a simple guideline, but it's really effective for evaluating rental properties. Basically, you want to aim for a monthly rent that's about 1% of the purchase price.
Right. So if you buy a property for $200,000, you should ideally be looking at a rental income of around $2,000 a month. Makes it easy to gauge if a property is worth pursuing, right?
Exactly. And it's a quick way to filter out properties that don't meet that criteria, but, it's not the only metric you should rely on.
Of course. Like, the 50% rule is another one that's super useful. That one's about estimating your expenses.
Yes, the 50% rule suggests that about 50% of your rental income will go towards expenses, including things like maintenance, property management fees, and vacancies. So if you're pulling in that $2,000 a month,
then you should expect to budget around $1,000 for expenses, right?
That's spot on. And understanding this can help you figure out if the cash flow makes sense. If you're buying that $200,000 property and only getting $1,500 in rent, well, it might not be a good fit when you factor in those expenses.
Right, and then there's the cap rate, which is another key metric. It's a little more detailed, but really important for assessing the value of an investment.
Yes, the cap rate gives you a snapshot of the return on investment. You calculate it by dividing the net operating income by the property's purchase price. So if your property generates $24,000 a year in net income and you bought it for $300,000,
then your cap rate would be 8%, right?
Exactly. And that's a solid cap rate, generally speaking. Most investors look for cap rates between 6% to 10%, depending on the market. It's just another layer of analysis to help you assess whether an investment is worthwhile.
And I think a checklist for deal evaluation could be really helpful too. Like, what should landlords be looking at?
Great idea. First off, you want to consider the location. What's the neighborhood like? Are there amenities nearby? Then, look at the property condition. Is it move-in ready? Or will you need to invest a lot in renovations?
And don't forget about the local rental market. What's the demand like? Are there a lot of vacancies? Or is it a hot market?
Right, and then there's the financing aspect. Always evaluate your financing options. Are you going with traditional loans or are you looking into alternative financing? Knowing your options can really impact your cash flow.
Yeah, and it's crucial to understand how your financing will affect your return. For example, if you're paying a high interest rate on a mortgage, that's going to eat into your profits.
Exactly, which is why I often recommend getting pre-approved for financing before you even start looking for properties. It gives you a clearer picture of what you can afford.
And also helps when you're making offers, right? Sellers usually prefer buyers who are already approved.
Absolutely. It puts you in a stronger negotiating position. Now, let's talk about different property types. Not all properties are created equal.
Right. Single-family homes are often seen as a safe bet, but multifamily units can offer better cash flow potential.
Yes, multifamily properties can provide multiple income streams from one location, which can be really beneficial. Plus, if one unit is vacant, you still have the others bringing in income.
And then you have commercial properties, which can be a bit more complex but also present unique opportunities.
Exactly. Commercial properties often have longer lease terms, which can provide stability, but they also come with their own set of challenges, like understanding zoning laws and tenant needs.
And let's not forget about the importance of diversification. Investing in different property types or markets can help mitigate risks.
Right. If one area is underperforming, another might be thriving, which balances things out. It's all about creating a robust portfolio.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, but I think it's also important to touch on common pitfalls investors might face when using platforms like Buildium or AppFolio.
Absolutely. One common pitfall is not fully utilizing the features these platforms offer. Many landlords sign up, but don't take the time to explore all the tools available.
Yes, and that could mean missing out on automating tasks or maximizing efficiency. Things like tenant communication, payment tracking, and maintenance requests can be streamlined.
Right, and another pitfall is overlooking tenant screening processes. It's so crucial to thoroughly vet your tenants. A good property management system can help with that.
Definitely. And not having a clear understanding of your financials can lead to trouble, too. It's easy to get lost in the numbers without a solid plan.
Exactly. And that's where consistent monitoring of your investments comes into play. You've got to keep an eye on your portfolio's performance regularly.
Well, I think we've shared some solid strategies and insights today. There's a lot to think about, but it's all about making informed decisions.
Absolutely. And that's how you build long-term wealth in real estate. Sarah, one of the biggest pitfalls I see with investors, especially those who are new to the game, is over-leveraging. It's tempting, right? You see a great property, and you think, if I just borrow a bit more, I can make this work.
Yeah, definitely. It's like that shiny object syndrome. But what happens when you stretch yourself too thin?
Well, I had a client not too long ago who fell into that trap. They bought a multifamily unit, thinking, this is going to be my ticket to financial freedom. They ended up taking on way more debt than they could handle.
Ouch. What went wrong for them?
They underestimated the costs involved. Maintenance, vacancies, all those things that can hit you out of nowhere. When their first tenant moved out, they were left scrambling, and suddenly that cash flow they expected just evaporated.
That's a tough lesson. So what should people look for to avoid that kind of scenario?
First off, make sure you've got a solid financial cushion. Don't just rely on the expected rent income. Look at your overall financial situation. How much can you comfortably invest without risking everything?
Right, and I guess having a reserve fund for unexpected expenses is crucial too.
Exactly. And then there's bad tenants. That's another common pitfall. It can really derail your plans if you don't screen them properly.
I can imagine. It must be a headache when you get a tenant who doesn't pay on time, or, worse, causes damage.
Exactly. I remember another case where an investor thought they had found a great tenant because they had a decent job and seemed respectful. But they didn't check their rental history thoroughly.
What happened?
They ended up with months of missed rent, and, to top it off, the place was a disaster when they finally moved out. It cost the investor thousands to get it back in shape for the next tenant.
Ugh, that's so frustrating. So, what's your advice on screening tenants?
Look for a complete rental history, not just their current job situation. Talk to previous landlords, and don't shy away from asking the tough questions. And trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is.
Yeah, that intuition can be pretty powerful.
For sure. And then there's the issue of cash flow. Many investors ignore it because they're focused on appreciation or the potential of a property.
Right? They think, this place is going to be worth so much more in a few years, and overlook the monthly expenses.
Exactly. I had an investor who bought in a trendy neighborhood, thinking the value would shoot up, but they didn't account for how much the property taxes would rise, or the HOA fees.
Those hidden costs can really add up, can't they?
They absolutely can. Before they knew it, their cash flow was negative and they were struggling to keep up with the mortgage.
So how can investors ensure they're keeping an eye on cash flow?
You've got to create a detailed budget. List out all your expected expenses, mortgage, taxes, maintenance, and factor in a contingency for those unexpected repairs.
Right, and that way, you're not just relying on the hope that property values will go up.
Exactly. And then there's the whole concept of timing the market. You hear people say, I'm just going to wait until prices drop.
Yeah, that can be a slippery slope.
I once worked with someone who waited 3 years, thinking they'd get a better deal. Meanwhile, the market kept climbing, and they ended up paying even more than if they had jumped in earlier.
It's like trying to catch a falling knife, isn't it?
Right? You have to remember that real estate is a long-term game. If you find a property that makes sense for you financially, don't get hung up on trying to time it perfectly.
Good point. And then there are hidden costs, right, that can really sneak up on you.
Absolutely. Things like closing costs, insurance, and even the cost of getting the property tenant ready. Those can be substantial.
I guess it's about being thorough and doing your homework before you buy.
Yes, and I recommend always getting a property inspection. You'd be surprised at what can be lurking behind the walls.
Yeah, like mold or plumbing issues. Those can turn into huge expenses.
Exactly. A good inspector can save you from a lot of potential headaches down the line.
So, what's the takeaway here?
Well, it's about being proactive rather than reactive. Look for red flags early, be diligent in your research, and don't ignore the numbers. If something feels off, don't be afraid to walk away.
That's such solid advice.
And remember, it's all part of the learning process. Every investor makes mistakes, but it's how you learn from them that counts.
Right. So what's the next step for someone who's ready to dive in but wants to avoid these pitfalls?
Start with a solid plan. Lay out your finances, set clear investment goals, and create a checklist for property evaluation. And don't rush into anything. Take your time to do it right.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing these insights, Mike. It's so helpful to hear real-life examples.
My pleasure, Sarah. It's all about building that confidence and making informed decisions.
And speaking of next steps, we'll explore some practical strategies for finding good deals in real estate in our next section.
All right, so now that we've talked about the differences between Buildium and AppFolio, let's get into some actionable steps that people can take today, right?
Absolutely. I think the first thing they can do is assess their current needs. I mean, maybe they're just starting out or have been managing a few properties for years. It helps to know what features they actually need from a CRM.
Exactly, and that's where a checklist can really come in handy. They might want to list out things like tenant communication, maintenance requests, and financial tracking. Just jot down what's important to them.
Right. And, while they're at it, they can download some apps that can help them in their journey. I'd recommend checking out Zillow for property listings and local market insights. It's super user-friendly.
Definitely. And if they're looking to analyze deals, the BiggerPockets calculator is a fantastic tool. It allows users to crunch numbers on potential investments and see if they make sense financially.
Oh, for sure. And Deal Check is another one that's great for analyzing properties. It helps you visualize your cash flow, ROI, and all that important stuff.
And let's not forget Rentometer. It's a tool that helps landlords understand rental pricing in their area, which is crucial for setting competitive rents.
Exactly. And if they want to dig deeper into local market trends, accessing their local MLS can give them a wealth of information about property sales and trends.
Yeah, and it's great for spotting investment opportunities. Now, while we're talking about tools, there are also some excellent books and podcasts out there.
Oh, definitely. I always recommend the book on rental property investing by Brandon Turner. It's really comprehensive and offers actionable strategies.
And for podcasts, BiggerPockets podcast is fantastic. They interview investors from all walks of life and share real-world experiences that listeners can learn from.
That's a good one. And speaking of community, joining a local real estate meetup can be a game changer. Networking with other investors can provide insights and support that are invaluable.
Absolutely. Just meeting people who are on a similar journey can really motivate you. Plus, they can share tips and resources that you might not find elsewhere.
And starting small is key. Maybe they can commit to analyzing just one deal a week. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's all about consistency.
Right, and even if they don't have a deal in mind, they can practice by looking at listings online and trying to assess whether they'd be a good investment or not.
That's such a good point. It's all about building those muscles, The more they practice, the better they'll get at spotting deals.
Exactly. And, keeping a journal of their thoughts on each deal can also be beneficial. They can jot down what they like or don't like about each property they analyze.
Great idea. That way, they can refine their criteria over time and really hone in on what works for them.
And let's not forget about setting goals. They could set a goal to acquire a certain number of properties within the next year, or maybe a target cash flow amount.
Yes. Specific, measurable goals can really help keep them focused and motivated.
And if they're feeling stuck at any point, there are always forums and online communities where they can ask questions and get advice.
That's true. Engaging with others can really spark new ideas and solutions. Plus, it's nice to know you're not alone in this journey.
Absolutely. And, they shouldn't hesitate to reach out to local property management companies if they have questions about how they manage their operations.
That's a brilliant idea. There's so much to learn from those in the industry who are already doing what they want to do.
Right, and as they start implementing these tools and habits, it's important to stay patient and give themselves grace. Building wealth takes time.
Yes. Celebrate those small wins along the way, whether it's analyzing a deal or connecting with another investor.
With these tools in their pocket and these habits in place, they're ready to move forward.
So those are some practical first steps. Now let's bring this all together.
So as we wrap things up, let's quickly recap some key takeaways from our discussion on CRM for landlords.
Yeah, absolutely. One big thing we touched on was the user experience, right? Both Buildium and AppFolio have their strengths, but it really depends on what you're looking for.
Exactly. If you want something straightforward, Buildium can be a great option. But if you're looking for more advanced features, AppFolio might be the way to go.
And then there's pricing. We discussed how AppFolio can get a bit pricier, but that might be worth it for those extra tools and functionalities, especially if you're managing multiple properties.
Right. And don't forget about integration with other systems. It's so important to consider how these platforms work with your existing tools. It can save you a lot of headaches down the line.
For sure. And, we also talked about customer support. That's a huge factor for many landlords. You want to feel supported, especially when you're tackling issues with tenants or maintenance.
Absolutely. Building wealth through real estate isn't just about finding the right property. It's also about having the right systems in place to manage that property effectively.
Well said. And remember, every step you take in this journey, whether it's choosing a CRM or investing in your first property, is a step towards your financial freedom.
So if you found value in today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with someone over 40 who's looking to invest in property. And hey, let us know your biggest takeaway or any questions you might have in the comments.
Yes, we love hearing from you. Next time, we'll dive into rent collection apps, comparing Cozy with some other options out there.
It's going to be a great discussion.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
Take care and happy investing.
Bye for now.